Saw a lot of, political exchanges between Jubilee and ODM when it came to Kibra parliamentary by-election. BBI report, President Uhuru Kenyatta, ODM leader Raila Odinga expected to receive that report anytime. But still, a lot of political debate even before politicians get, a view of what the report entails. So now to discuss about these several issues in the political scene, I'd like us to talk to, Westlands Member of Parliament, Tim Wanyonyi, who's with me here in the studio. Thank you, Mheshimiwa, for joining us here on KTN Center. And also joining us from Parliament Building is a Member of Parliament for Ajir East, Honorable Rashid Kassim. I'll be talking to these two Honorable Members of Parliament on these issues when it comes to the politics of this country. But let me just begin with Honorable Kassim. Matters Census. The northeastern region has raised a lot of concern about the figures that were released by the, by the team that was conducting the census 2019. And, some of the leaders from the northeastern region have threatened to go to court to challenge the results. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you very much, viewers. We will be able to address our concerns as far as the results of the census was concerned. The census theme for 2019 was basically to count Kenyans for purpose of sustainable development and delivery of devolution services. What we have seen as far as the results were concerned and the way the census was conducted, it was wanting. It was a deliberate effort to negate the numbers of people in northern Kenya, particularly people in pastoral communities, and their numbers were drastically reduced. If you have been seeing, there was a calculated effort by the government to reduce the numbers, particularly from those which have been captured in 2009. And if you can be able to see it clearly, there's a downward trend for Mandera, 15%, have lowered compared to 2009. And if you can see in other parts of the constituencies, particularly in Wajir and many others, there's a drastic reduction. Nearly 50% of the population have not been counted. And during the actual census, which we participated as members of parliament and we supported, the figures that were reflected and the figures that were released were contrary. There was a huge disparity in that. So we realized that, and we still believe that there is a deliberate attempt by the government of the day to deny our actual number of the census. So to deny us representation, particularly when it comes to delineation of boundaries to the future, to resource mobilization and resource appropriation through devolution. So we see is a deliberate attempt by the government to deny us the actual figure that we feel was counted on the date of 24th and 25th.
All right. And Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, you've heard what, Honorable Kassim has said, questioning the authenticity of that report. But as a Member of Parliament for Westlands, I don't know whether you're satisfied with the, the results of Nairobi County. And if you are, you'll give us your sentiments. But also my important question is, members of parliament, coming from regions that have been affected, threatening to move to court to challenge this report. Is it because most of them are jittery that their constituencies will no longer be there? Because this census results, there's a likelihood that some constituencies will be done away with.
I think their concerns are valid, because if they are making allegations that people are not properly counted, then the government must address those issues. And there are even mechanisms to address any grievances that will arise from the results of the census. And I believe before we went for census, there was this Huduma number, registration and all that. And it was like a precursor to the census, which I believe if they can even compare now the numbers from the Huduma and the census, then it can it can provide some information on how they can deal with this issue. But I believe that the issues that the members from these regions are raising are valid, and the government must look at it instead of maybe giving excuses. Because I remember even myself, I had to intervene in some situations in my constituency because the issues that were being dealt with, they were not properly, they have recruited young people whom they were not even providing proper facilities to do the work. And they're working in a very difficult circumstances. Sometimes one enumerator is stretched in a very long, traveling long distances on foot, and you can see the dangers they're exposed to, and maybe they are new in that area, they don't understand the dynamics of the area. So it was actually, the circumstances were very, very critical, and I believe whatever issues people are raising, the government should not wish them away. They should just look at them. Are they valid, or what was the miss? Yeah.
But then, as much as you're saying that, just before I rope in Honorable Kassim into this conversation, the man in charge of the census exercise, when he was questioned about the results, county governments like Meru saying that some of the residents were counted as Isiolo residents, yet that should have not been done. He said that he believes his team did a good job. So if the team that was already conducting this exercise has rubbished claims, claims that were being made by political leaders, then it looks like there's no light at the end of the tunnel for these leaders who are raising these serious concerns.
We are representatives of the people, and we are more often on the ground listening to issues, listening to what is going on. And I can speak for myself. I was there live. I went to see, I witnessed. I observed some of the incidents that were going on. And I even had time to even talk to those enumerators. And I asked them about how they are doing. I remember once, one of them who ended up so tired. When he reached the house that he was going to do the enumeration at that time, he reached there and handed over the tablets to the people in that house to count themselves. Those are some of the issues that may not have been seen. These people who sit in the offices, they don't know what is on the ground, what is the reality that is actually out there. And when we address it, they say we are politicking. But I believe the issues are real.
But are you satisfied as Honourable Member of Parliament for Westlands with the results of your constituency?
I have seen the results. I believe, Nairobi the dynamics in Nairobi are different from those in rural areas and other areas, because the population of Nairobi during the day is different at night. When if you do the census during the day, you'll find there are more people in Nairobi. And at night, there are fewer people. So I believe there could be some, errors here and there, but those are the results they've given us.
All right. So
but I must also add that maybe when we read the report in a finer detail, we'll try to understand the nitty-gritties that were really addressed.
All right. So, Honourable Kassim, before leaders from the northeastern region moved to court, have you tried a seeking audience with the team that was conducting, the census exercise in short, the government?
First, let me be able to make it very clear and everybody understand what are our contentions and what we are contesting against. We are contesting against the census that were conducted on the date on 24th and 25th night. What apparently appears is that the census officials were mainly concerned in remitting the results which were based on the mapping which was done earlier in the year. So basically, as far as we are concerned, census is the date of 24th and 25th. And the figures we have seen, it does not conform with what was actually captured on 24th, 25th, and the mapping period of 1st and 2nd of the following month. So basically what we see is that there's a total reduction in those numbers. If you see a constituency like Tarbaj, which had specifically during 2009, 110 population, today has captured only 57,000. That is a total reduction, nearly 100% in a period of 10 years. Is that correct? It may not be correct. And if you see during the actual counting on the 24th, 25th, the same constituency has captured of 270,000 population of 270. If you look at the constituencies of Garissa, like Dera, has captured 52,000. And in the previous census of 2009, they have captured over 150,000. If you go to the Balambala constituency in Garissa, which was initially hived away from Garissa Township, you will be able to find it. There's a total population which was captured during this period of 2019 is 32,000. The registered voters in that constituency is 21,000. The children going children in that constituency is 16,000.
Right,
if you add 16,000, so basically what I'm trying to say is that there's a huge disparity of numbers, as if there's an epidemic which has happened in that part of the country, which of course did not happen. And if indeed that disparity is there, it should have been a concern for the leadership of this country.
All right, but
one other thing we have also observed is, yes.
Honorable Kassim, my question is, have you tried seeking audience with the government concerning this issue before moving to court?
What we have seen is that we have initially, before the census was done, a number of constituencies have written directly to the Director General of Statistics of KBS, and we have seen we have not even got results, because we got a wind from the utterances which was made by politicians elsewhere, and by the utterances of the Director General as far as the mapping was concerned. And we thought we could be able to address by writing official letters to them for purpose of address. There was nothing which was done during that period. And we foresaw that this thing is likely to come. And even Balambala, you have seen it, Balambala constituency have gone to court before the actual census, citing the low number of enumerators and low number of officials to conduct the census. And the court has made a ruling that there should be a revision and there should be an additional number of officials to do the census. And indeed, a whole battery of army officials were taken from here only not to conduct the census. So basically what we have seen, even before the actual census was concerned, is that we did not get an appropriate responses from the Director General of Kenya Bureau of Statistics. And further to that, he was always making references to the Minister of Interior, and we thought it wise that the Minister of Interior, which and actually census is issue of security, it's anchored with the Minister of Plan and Treasury, but yet it was taken, center stage was taken by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination as far as the census conduct were concerned. Chiefs were involved. Quite a number of administrative officials in the various sub-counties were involved. So we have seen it, there's a deliberate attempt to deny us the actual population that we feel was captured on 24th and 25th. Further to that, the issue is not only Papauta or Northern Kenya. No, let me be able to say, the issue is not only a matter of Northern Kenya. It's not the fact that Honorable Wanyonyi is in Nairobi, you may be able to see it, that there's an additional 1 million population which was increased in Nairobi. Out of that, if you find Kamukunji, did not indicate an increase. Yet the rest of other various sub-counties in Nairobi have indicated an increase. What does that amount to tell you? That there's a specific way of targeting even where our communities domicile.
All right. And the same community is what, the government will be looking towards, forward to when it comes to the support of the BBI report that is expected, to be given to President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM Raila Odinga. Let's discuss about matters BBI. And let me begin with, Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi. And even because I'd like you also to respond to the sentiment, of Honorable Kassim when it comes to the counting of residents in Nairobi, saying that 1 million was added to Nairobi County. But even as you respond to that in a minute, my question is about the BBI report. A lot of political jittering we are seeing playing around the BBI report, even before the President and Honorable Raila Odinga have a look at it.
There's a lot that has been said about BBI. We have seen some dummy reports in the social media. We have seen people, discussing things I have not seen. I don't know what what is contained in that report. Of course, we know that Kenyans actually gave their views. They provided their views, and people are expecting that the views that they provided could be the ones that they expect to be in the report. But the report must come out for us to read and analyze. And of course, that report is not cast in a stone, and it's not going to be the way it is that it comes out and they say, this is what we are going to do. It will be given to Kenyans to go through it, to analyze. It will go to the county assemblies. It will come to the National Assembly. We look at it, and anything that will not be good for Kenyans, we'll remove it. And we'll not, sometimes, we have to look at things in, you look at it and say, how is it going to affect the larger population of Kenya? Is it, and some people, the argument is so skewed, who are saying that we are creating jobs for a few individuals. This thing is for prosperity. I don't think we are going to create a job for an individual. Even if they did, that individual will not last forever. The constitution change is for all Kenyans, it's not for a particular, and we cannot make laws for a certain class of people. Laws must be made for a general populace of Kenya.
All right. Yeah. But Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, it's about matters law, it's about matters referendum, something that, as we speak, the economy of the country cannot even, we cannot even afford going to another referendum when it comes to changing of the constitution. But don't you think some of the things that Honorable Raila Odinga, your party leader, and President Uhuru Kenyatta wants to be achieved or to be changed do not need, and it doesn't have to do with any legal issues?
There are some issues that do not need to go to the referendum. There are issues that affect, for example, if something that is going to affect the term of presidency, then it must go to Kenyans to express about themselves about it, because you'll be now altering the term of the presidency. If he's serving 5 years and you want him to serve 7 years, that is an issue that we need Kenyans to express themselves and say we actually support that idea, that the president can serve for one term 7 years, or if we are going to look at change the format of government, then we must also go to Kenyans and ask. But there are some things that if they are provided for changing, that does not require a change, does not require a referendum, then those can be done by Parliament. They just brought to Parliament, we debate about them, and then the Parliament will vote for or against, and then it will pass. So it is an issue that we need to look at them. What is it that will require to go to the referendum, and what is it that will be required to go to the referendum? And if there's nothing that will require to go to the referendum, then Parliament will deal with it. And we are in Parliament, and we represent people, and we are not robots. We don't vote. We are not voting machines. People debate issues, and then we decide. All
right. People debate on issues. You're not robots. You just don't vote for anything.
Yes.
And I was almost about to ask you, then if that's the case, how come in some circumstances you've seen members of Parliament voting, for voting for bills or decisions that Kenyans are not in support of? That's a discussion for another day, Honorable Tim Wanyonyi. But let me bring in Honorable Kasim. There's a lot of debate, a lot of politics about the BBI report. But what people are asking, why is it that Deputy President William Ruto feels left out in this BBI, initiative, and started, that, let me say, lead of asking some members of Parliament not to support it, because we've seen what has been termed as the Tanga and the Keleweke team not supporting, Tanga not supporting, Keleweke team supporting the BBI report.
On the issue of the BBI, I think I don't want to cast aspersion on the BBI report, because it's not yet official, it's not clear on the table, and the issues that are likely going to be raised on the BBI may not be very clear to us as members of Parliament. And I don't want to speculate on issues that have not become very official, but there are issues that are of concern to us, and if they may not be captured quite adequately in the BBI, we're likely to either discard it or denounce it or disagree with it. So basically, there are certain principles that are quite significant to us. The issue of the number of constituencies which are currently enshrined in the Constitution, that is 290. The number of devolved units, that is the 47, which are based on in terms of resource allocation, and the issues of the parliamentary system, whether it's a parliamentary system or whether we're going to say the presidential system. These are issues that are quite significant to us as members of parliament and as representatives of the people, and may be able to affect the development agenda of this country. So until and unless those issues are spelled out very clearly by the BPI report, and which we feel that is the only opportune time we can be able to respond to it adequately or to decline. But for those who have postured themselves as either Tanga or either Kieleweke, based on their concerns on a report that has not become official or not has been released officially, I see it trying to maintain relevances for the elections of 2022. Otherwise, it has nothing to do, or it does not postulate what is likely to be released on the report of BPI.
All right. So, Honorable Kasim, according to you, you're saying that some of these leaders are not supporting the BBI, and those who are supporting it's because of the 2022 politics. But my question is this: then, what is your thought when it comes to inclusivity of the BBI report? What do you expect, to have? What do you expect the report to have so that inclusivity is adhered to, is actually pointed out in that report, especially for people from the northeastern region, a region that some of the political leaders feel has been left out when it comes to development?
The issue that are really concerned to us, as far as we are concerned, is the parliamentary system. We feel it should be included a parliamentary system where the Prime Minister will be the executive and will be drawn from the House, and other cabinet will also be drawn from the House, and the House should have the stature and the strength and the ability to govern. And the Prime Minister should be elected by the members of Parliament. That is the only time we feel. We may have a Prime Minister or a Deputy Prime Minister, a President and a Deputy Prime Minister on that line. So a hybrid system where there's a presidency and a Prime Minister who will be able to govern the government, so the executive for that matter. So those levels of government, and which will be eventually be elected by members of Parliament who represent the greater larger of the country, will make us more inclusive. So,
all right.
And it will give more clout to this house. So I feel the way to go is what shortcomings were there, or what has been realized from the Constitution of 2010. If there were gaps which were realized over the period, particularly on the issue of the Parliament and the executive, and more, so that we feel there's a bigger umbrella or the greater number of people who will have a say in the country. But where now we have winner takes it all. It's all, and there's always going to be a conflict in terms of every election. These are issues that are of concern to us. We want a sober country, a country that is focused on development, a country that is inclusive, a country where each and every individual in this country participates in the leadership of this country. This is what we Kenyans are looking forward to.
All right. So, Honorable Timonyonyi, I mean, the Constitution has a lot of gaps. That is something that all Kenyans know, and we've just accepted. But do you think addressing these gaps or filling these gaps is through the BBI?
There are many ways of filling the gaps. And since BBI came about and they constituted a task force that went around collecting views from Kenyans, I think it's quite representative that Kenyans across the country from all counties have made their contribution to these views, and most of them are talking about the gaps in the Constitution. There are things that we have realized now after implementing the Constitution, that there are some things that are not workable, that we need now to do audit of the Constitution and come up with the practical issues that can now be dealt with. Issues of we have seen, like, we moved from the parliamentary system of government to presidential, which has provided us with a lot of challenges, especially for the last two elections. We have come out more hurt than we were before. So, and also, we have also looked at the performance of government. The government that was there, for example, the Kibaki government that was in parliament, and the government, the now government that is away from parliament. There's a lot of issues that can be addressed to make sure that the constitution is actually working for us. And also that when we are dealing with issues of governance, and that's the area that Kenyans really talk about when we are talking about this issue, governance issues. Those are areas that we need to make sure that the government is there to work for Kenyans. The government must deliver services to Kenyans. The government must have the face of Kenya. We don't want a government where the Americans used to call a spoil system, that when you go to election, whoever wins walks in with these people, exclusive of the others. When you didn't support them, you don't belong to that government. So it's a government of inclusivity that we want. That we want to see the president appointing people in his government from all over the country.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So now, we're talking about matters Building Bridges initiative, Honorable Timon Nonyonyi and Honorable Rashid Kassim. And it is about, we're building bridges in terms of unity. We've seen women from parliament having team embrace. We've seen women from parliament having Inua Mama. But what we saw on a Thursday during the parliamentary by-election in Kibra has raised a lot of questions, especially in the political scene, because there's a lot of political intolerance. Violence was reported in different parts of the country. Voter bribery, not in different parts of the country, sorry, in Kibra. And voter bribery was also reported in a section of a polling station. So, Honorable Kassim, are we really building bridges in, trying to unite Kenyans owing to the violence that was reported in Kibra?
I think as far as the elections of Kibra was concerned, and what was seen, and the kind of violence and the voter bribery that was meted by section of leaders in the country, as far as the polls were concerned, was wanting. We need to grow up as Kenyans, and I think whether we bring statutory regulations to control politicians, or whether we bring BBI to give directions on whether to breach the differences that are there, I think that is not important. What is quite important is we need to have a change, a paradigm shift in the way we conduct our issues, the way we conduct our elections, the way we interact as citizens of this country. So until and unless we have attitudinal change as Kenyans, particularly on the way we conduct elections, the way we raise our issues, and the kind of concerns that we have as Kenyans, and what platform we can be able to use. But I think the issue of stone throwing, as we have seen, and where a member of parliament, a former senator, has to cajole himself and carry stones, as we have seen at Wetangula. He was put in a very precarious position. Just the only ammunition that he will be able to access at that point was to arm himself with a stone. That is a bad picture for Kenyans, where certain goons are used to quell other leadership, or to chase away other leadership, so that they cannot be able to participate in the elections. And if you have seen, in terms of even the turnout, and many other people have already expressed it very clearly, and they said they could not be able to see it because they realized the environment was not conducive for them even to vote. So I think until whatever policies we bring, whatever legal measures we're able to bring, they're already there. But I think what we require as Kenyans is attitude change as far as the election or the conduct of the elections are concerned.
All right. And so, Jubilee, section of members from Jubilee Party are saying that they need an apology from ODM. ODM says they'll not apologize. They're just doing what they could to ensure voter bribery doesn't happen in Kibra. Let me take a short breather, but we still have a lot lined up for you during the second hour, including that discussion, on matters of politics. And when we come back, I'll be engaging Honorable Timon Nonyonyi, Member of Parliament for Westlands, because his party, the party that he comes from, ODM party, maintains that the win was free, fair, and without violence, but cases of voter bribery was reported. We'll be getting his sentiments after the short commercial break.